hold on a second. I'm gonna actually record this and then just because in case people are stuck or absent. This is the page 30 in the book, right? And we're talking about the Brownie problem where there's 2/3 of the pan left, and I'm asking you, Laura, now the next kid's gonna come and buy 1/3 of what's left. So he's gonna buy 1/3 of the 2/3 that's left, and you said you would split it into thirds, right? How would you do that?
Well, first I split the two leftover thirds into fourths, but that doesn't work, so it splits into thirds, and so you count the difference between 3 by 3.
Yeah. So did you hear her say she makes it like a 3 by 3? So she's gonna take the pan. So that's one correct way to do this. Take the pan and then split it into thirds. It sounds to me like you were going, when you say 3 by 3, you would, I didn't get the straight line tool, but that works, right? You were gonna go vertical. So now I've taken the green part, my 2/3, and you look at that, I can take 1/3 of that. So I'm gonna just take 1/3 of what's left. You see that? Yeah. Okay. So what fraction does 1/3 of 2/3 represent? 2/9, right? Because there's these two pieces where the color's overlapping. And then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pieces all together. So if the second person says, I'll take 1/3 of the 2/3 that's left, the second person gets 2/9 of the entire brownie pan. Raise your hand if that makes sense. Okay, so looking at the top of page 30, it says all the pans of brownie squares. Okay, on this page, all the pans of brownie squares, all of the pans of brownies are square. So all of your pictures on your worksheet look like this. A pan of brownies costs $12. You could buy any fractional part, okay, just like the kids in the video, of a pan of brownies and pay that fraction of $12. For example, a half a pan costs half of $12 or $6, right? And so you're gonna use that concept to do these parts here. But if we go back to the $12, can we use that concept to figure out if the second person bought 2/9 of the entire pan, and the entire pan cost $12? Did you figure that out? Should we maybe figure out what the first person paid? Is that a hard problem? The first person paid $4 for this section right here, right?
Now we need to figure out.
So each section is $4, right?
We need to figure out.
Yeah, or we could do what you said first, figure out what 1/3 of 4 is.
Or you can just.
Or you could look at how much 1 square is worth. Those are your choices. So it might be the easiest to figure out what Walter said first. 1/3 of 4 just means taking 4 and dividing it into 3 parts, right? Which is the same as fraction bars mean divide, right? Oops, that's a third. So that's 1 1/3, which is 1.3 repeating.
But it just be one.
But in money, we only use 2 decimals. So $1.33 for one little square. Does that make sense? Did I do that way too fast? Okay. And so if each little square is $1.33, the second person, 2/9 of the entire pan, is $2.66. that make sense? Okay, so I'm gonna have you go to the book and look at part A and work on that in your groups. Okay, who wants to share their solution for the first part, A? Walter, you want to come up and do it? Can you do it with shading and everything?
Yeah.
Let me know if you need help with the tools.
Just do it on that showing on the board.
Yeah, just do it on that right there. So Mrs. Williams asks to buy half of a pan of brownies. That's 2/3 full. What would you start with?
Well, first, I go like this, or about.
Okay, stop for a minute. So because the brownies, she's buying half of the 2/3, you're going to start with the 2/3. Go to the arrow. Here. And let's, yeah, here, delete. Not that one. That's okay, just leave it.
Oh, then I colored.
You could use the highlighter, that works pretty, okay.
Colored all of this to show what it was before. Use it bought stuff.
That's right.
Then I did this to show back.
Okay, so he didn't use a vertical line, but he just took half of what was left, shaded his answer so the overlap is half of what is left, which is what? Right. So, good. So, if you look at the reading, you're taking half of 2/3. That's, that word of, do you know what operation that is? Yeah, Olivia? No? Julian? Multiplication. So, another way to write this is half times 2/3, and he came up with the answer of 1/3. And the picture.
When you multiply fractions, they.
So hold on to that thought. We're getting there. Let everybody kind of think the pictures through first. Does that picture make sense?
Yeah.
Is it the only way to do it? No? But there's, so what if we went, so that's one solution, it works nicely. So if we went back to shading his 2/3, what's another way to do it? So instead of taking the top half, what could you do? Or the bottom half. You could take the bottom half, but instead of that, yeah, Julian. You could do vertically, you know, half of 2/3. So if you look at half of 2/3 now, it's this. Right? And it looks a little different because it looks like it equals something different, right? Because you're saying half of 2/3 is equal to 1, 2 out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
But they're equivalent fractions.
But they are equivalent fractions, right? Because we can divide them both by 2.
And you're running out of space.
And you get 1/3. I am running out of space, but I made it. Does that make sense? Okay, so we're good on how the brownie pan might look before Mrs. Williams buys the brownies. That was the red. And then when she buys the brownies, on the same model, that's number 2. So the number 2 is the overlap. And then number 3 is the final answer. And if it costs $12 for that pan of brownies, how much did Mrs. Williams have to pay? Sebastian? $4. Does that make sense? Let's look at B. So, Serena, on brownie pan, Serena buys 3/4 of another pan that is half full. Let's have somebody else do this. Somebody that hasn't been up at the board. Who hasn't been up at the board? Julian? So draw a picture to show how the brownie pan might look before Serena buys her brownies. So she's buying 3/4 of another pan that is half full. So how's that gonna look? Let's see if you guys agree.
If the brownie pan is half full, it'll look like this. So I split it.
Do you want to shade in the half full part?
Okay.
And then maybe switch colors.
I split it into fourths because she was buying 3/4 of a pan, or a half pan. So she was buying 3/4, which would look like this. And if you finish, it would sort of look like this, and that would be 8ths. So she was buying 3/8 of the whole brownie pan.
Right.
And she would pay $4.50 because 1/8 of $12 is 1.5, and 1.5 times 3 is 4.5.
Good. Okay, so there's a lot of information there. So let's see if we can write some of this down. So his shade is, can you see the overlap is these 3 sections? So the number sentence is 3/4 of a half pan. And then when he counted his parts, there's 8 parts in that picture, and 3 of them have the overlapping. Okay, so let's just look at one other option. If you do exactly what Julian did the half, and then I'm going to use a highlighter. It's just a little easier, I think, to see, and take half of it, and then do the fourths. Did you notice that he put these lines in later? Because he was able to realize he needed to break the whole thing up into smaller parts. He kind of did it like the allotment problem last week. You can put the lines in, even though you're only breaking the green part up into fourths, you could just break the whole square into fourths also. And then you've got it kind of divided up, just as a second option. Can't do that. Then shade 3 of them. 3/4 of the already shaded. And it might help some of you see the 8ths, because it's possible you might not be able to do what Julian did and then divide the pan up the rest of the way. Does that make sense? The money piece, what did you say it was?
$4.50.
Okay, good. So tell me what your thinking was.
Well, I knew that I divided it up into 8ths. So 12 over 8.
So you went right to 12 divided by 8.
Yep.
Okay, 12 over 8.
Is equals to 1 4/8.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So do you guys get why he did 12 over 8? There's $12 for the whole pan, and there's 8 little pieces of brownies.
Could be $1.50 for each.
So $1.50 for each square, right?
For each 8, but she bought 3.
Each rectangle. And she bought 3 of them. So each one of these costs $1.50, or $1.50, and you have 3 of them. So $1, $2, $3, and then enough, add the 50 cents, and you get $4.50. Good job. Did anybody just think of figuring out, like, maybe breaking 12 into 4 first? Yeah. What'd you do?
Because I knew that the third was $4.
Okay. You mean the... Well, could we say, we could maybe go in another way. We could say half the pan was $6 because we started with only half the pan, right? And then I guess you could divide that into four parts. $6 divided by 4 parts. So that's the fraction bar means divide, and you would get 1 2/4, which is also 1 1/2. So there's other ways. I was just curious. Okay. So do you notice, could you draw these then without a word problem? Can you see those back there? They're part C in your book. They're trying to get you to write a number sentence, draw a brownie picture for each pan, and write a number sentence. Okay? Using of for each. So, in other words, if I were going to do number 1 here, I would just do a sketch. You still have some squares left. And I have a third of a fourth of a brownie pan. So I have to make sure my brownie pan's first divided into fourths. And this part is really what I start with. Do you guys see that? Because I'm taking a third of a fourth, so I need to have the fourth in place. And now I'm going to take a third of it. So I'm going to go this way. And I only want a third of it. So my overlap is right here. So my number sentence with the English is just a third of a fourth is, what's the answer?
A 12.
A 12th.
And it's only 1 drop.
And it's 1/3 because that's where the overlap is, right? Of means multiply. 1/4 is 1/12. So Ryan, what about the next one? A fourth of a third. Is that going to be the same or just different?
It's going to be the same.
It's going to be the same because if I want to do a fourth of a third, even though I start with the third now, and I shade that in, now I'm going to take a fourth of it, so I'm going to divide it this way into 4 parts, and I still have 1 out of 12. So when I multiply, just like when I multiply 2 times 3, it's the same as 3 times 2. This picture, the way we did it was a fourth of a third. You still get a 12. Does that make sense? What if I have number 4? Let's skip to number 4. 3/4 of 2/5. So if you have a few drawings to do at homework tonight, they don't have to be perfect, right? To do this, I'm going to mark off fifths. I might try twice, but it doesn't have to be like super perfect. So then, in other words, you could do a quick sketch of fifths. You don't have to measure. It's a visual. It's not exact. And I want to do 2/5. So, you know, you could shade just like Walter did. Or Julia. Just kind of went, you know, scribble, scribble, scribble. Enough to give you a visual. Now I'm going to do 3/4 of that. So what should I do first, Ryan? I've got the 2/5. So look at the denominator of the new thing.
Oh yeah, we should come in for 20.
No, because I'm not adding. I want to take 3/4 of this green part.
Oh, so you divided.
You divide it into fours. Good. So I'm going to go sideways. The reason I crisscross is I think it's easy to see the change. So, and I want 3/4. So I want 3 of these, and then I have color here to show me the overlap. So 3/4 of 2/5. Do you know what that is? How many pieces are in that brownie pan? It's a 5 by 4 now, isn't it? Yeah, what is it?
20.
There's 20 pieces. And how many pieces out of 20 do I have? 6, it's hard to see the overlaps right here. Better? So 6 out of 20. So that reduces to 3/10. Okay, so I have 3/10, so 3/4 of 2/5 is 3/10. And remember, of is a multiply. What's the short pattern? What am I doing if we just look? How did I get the 6? Like looking over here, the 6 is 2 by 3, isn't it? Where does that come from? In the fractions, right here. The 3 and the 2 in the top, right? So when I multiply these fractions, 3 times 2 is 6. Where did I get the 20? 4 times 5. So the pictures help you learn how to multiply fractions. And they're like, I don't know if you heard Avery say the pictures make this make a lot more sense. You have some picture drawing to do tonight, but eventually you're going to do these so quick you're just going to do them all in your head. And some of you maybe are there. Do you have a quick question, Laura? Go through the problems tonight and come back and tell me if it always works that way. Okay? It would be, wouldn't it?